We're taking a break from our devotional series in the book of Nehemiah to just briefly talk about the election season that we're in. And this devotion is not an attempt to say, hey, this is who you should vote for, this is how you should think of the election. I mean, I do think that faith and spirituality do speak into politics, but that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how do we live as Christians? How do we walk as Christians in such a divided political time? And the answer to that is fairly simple, that the Lord has shown us grace, and that grace needs to inform our conduct with each other, the way we talk to each other, the way we interact with people in politics. God's grace is what we need, and it gives us life, it gives us power, and it should inform the way we behave. Now, those are nice words, but where does that begin? How do we do that? Well, it begins by understanding where our trust needs to be. Is it in political leaders? Is it in our political system? Those things are good, but that's not where our faith should be. Our faith should be in God alone. And again, okay, we feel the power of that statement, but practically, what does that mean? Are we not simply doing that by saying, yes, I believe in God first and foremost? But how do we be more practical with that? Well, we can tell often where our hopes, where our trust really resides by the things that make us really anxious. I mean, really undo us. Now, some things are appropriate in the sense that we hear them and it really undoes us. We see a child get injured. We lose our job. We get a bad diagnosis. Our chest tightens. We find it hard to breathe. This makes sense. But if we have the same feeling when we don't get the promotion, when the first date doesn't go well, when we don't get the award, is our trust misplaced? As you know, I was a campus minister for many years, and I had a fellow campus minister tell me this story of a young lady calling him late in the evening, and she was sobbing on the telephone. He couldn't even make out what she was trying to say, so he got her calmed down a bit, and once she was able to talk, he said, okay, what's going on? And she said, I wasn't picked as the homecoming queen. We can understand her disappointment. But this is misplaced hope. It's placed in something fleeting and empty, and it's an idol. And idols don't feed us, don't nourish us. They promise, but they disappoint, and they rob us of life. When we watch the debate, when we look at the polls, when we watch the returns, do we have trouble breathing like we do with the bad news from the doctor? We have to ask ourselves, what hopes have I been placing in politics and in the election? Is this my salvation? Have I been hoping this will solve my problems and the problems of the world? We need to back up and say, who's really running things? From whom does our salvation come? During the time of the kings of Israel, there were droughts and swarms of locusts and plagues, not unlike our times. We've just lived through a pandemic. What was our hope in the pandemic? Was it in a vaccine? Was it in social distancing? Was it believing in the science? Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. These things can be good, but ultimately they are not our salvation. The Chronicles of the Kings of Israel tell us where our true hope is. We read from 2 Chronicles 14. When I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command locusts to devour the land, or send a plague among the people, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and heal their land. In whom should we place our trust? The Lord. Only He can ultimately deliver. Medicine, political leaders, technology can be good, but they cannot ultimately save. The Lord can, and the Lord is willing. The resurrection promises ultimate redemption, even in the face of death. If we truly believe that, what do we have to fear? And when we are loosed from this fear, it frees us up to serve, not to insist on being served. So instead of demanding political leaders save us, we instead can serve them. We can pray for them. That's what Paul encouraged us to do in 2 Timothy. He writes, I urge then, first of all, that petitions, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all goodness, godliness, and holiness. This is good and pleases our Savior. Pray for them. Pray for our political leaders. Pray for our candidates. They're supposed to serve me. And indeed, political leaders are given authority to serve, but that does not relieve us of the call to live in light of God's grace. Serve them. Be gracious with them. Instead of constantly demanding that they save us, know where our salvation truly comes from, and then participate in the process in a responsible way. And when things don't go the way we hope, it's not the end of the world, because God is in charge. And not only can we be gracious towards leaders who we didn't vote for, but also the people around us, our neighbors, who don't like our political perspectives. It's not about getting our way. It's about knowing the Lord who is for us, and we can trust Him even when things don't go as we think they should. And it allows us to be gracious, even as we have been shown grace. That's what it means to walk with Jesus in this political season. I pray that we all have the strength to do that. God's blessing be on you all.